That was my spirit back then. It was just positive. You know, it wasn't Christian. You know, I didn't one saved or anything. But you know, that's who I surrounded myself with, was positive folk. You know, we cussed a lot off record. You know, but we was positive. You know, we wasn't the cats. You know, the folk who knew us, they knew we was just about a good time, fun. It was always clean, because that's really, to me, that's what hip hop. It was the purest root, the basic, you know, the hip hop stuff. You know, it wasn't, you know, I'm going, you know, whatever with the profanity. And as a matter of fact, that's the main reason that Shazzy's album never came out, because you knew that when you noticed that. Now when she came and I put the tracks together, she was real into the tracks. And she's like, oh yeah, and the label, Ruben Rodriguez, you know, he was, or Bermudez, which was it, Rodriguez, who owned Elektra. The guy who owned Elektra. He was just loving it. He's like, this is outstanding, you know? And then after that, they came to the studio. And when they came to the studio, now on top of that, now I am Christian. You know, this is 92, you know, I'm at least a Christian. I ain't a ministry or nothing. But even all my records never had cursing in it. You know, they was always positive and fun, and she was getting ready to take a turn and do a lot of cussing and pornography stuff in her lyrics. So I stopped the tape. Hold on, you know, that ain't the way my tracks, you know, work, you know. And she's like, yo, this is my stuff. You know, you can't tell me what I'm gonna write, you know. So I said, well, I can tell you what my tracks ain't gonna have, you know. So we in the studio for like 4 or 5 hours on my dime, because I was doing the all-in budget, and we just couldn't, we were at an impasse. So I called Tank back. I said, listen, man, I said, that ain't the way my tracks, you know. She got this new gear she want to shift where she talking about swinging from the bedpost or whatever. So you need to talk to her, or I need to just pull out, you know. And she's like, well, they already gave you money. I think they gave me, I don't know, 15, 10. They gave me 10. They gave me 10. She's like, you gonna throw away 10 grand? I'm like, yeah, I'll throw away 10 grand. I'm like, you know, the integrity of what you're doing, to me, you know, it just, you know, I'm not. So then after that, it froze the project, and I think that's what contributed to the delay that ended up being, like, while her project got delayed, then I had to go back to New York, sit with Ruben. He's playing the tracks. He's like, I'm loving these tracks. He's like, I ain't loving the lyrics. Because she was miserable to change them anyway. You know, she really didn't want to change them. So I'm like, hey, he liked my tracks, you know. So it delayed a project, I think, too long, where they ended up just moving on to the next thing. And I think that's why her stuff, you know, had she just not have fought, you know, or if I'd have went along, which not gonna happen, because you're right, all the stuff I produced, even before I ever found Christ, you know, to me it was just about the form, the art form. It was just about the music. It was, I didn't think you had to do all of that. You know, it was like, you know, there's too many words, you know, that you can have fun and just flow and just enjoy. You know, and I didn't knock nobody who cussed and all of that stuff. That's their thing. I ain't think twice about it, you know. If, like I said, I cussed a lot back then. If you cussed on your record and I liked your record, I'm saying your record and your cuss. You know, it's just on my stuff. I just was always kind of, you know, mindful that someday I want to hear it, you know, and I wanted radio. And that was another reason, because back then they didn't take the time to censor it. They didn't take the time to bleep it. You know, it wasn't until certain records got so hot that they had to play it. And then they just had to just bleep it or put a sound or on your cuss. But in the beginning, that was the kiss of death. You know, if you sit up here and bring a record to a radio station, your record could be decent or it could be hot, but they ain't gonna touch it because they're like, oh, you got cusses in it. Then after a while, when the hip hop started taking life of its own, and the radio stations could not ignore it no more, then they would just bring it in and just augment the cuss, augment. So the other part of it, as I think about it, is I wanted to always position myself to be radio friendly. I didn't want a program director to say no just because I put a cuss in it. So if an artist would cuss, I'd be like, look, man, we trying to be national. You know, we can leave that out. You know, it's not, you know, so they'd be like, all right, yeah, that's true, you know. But if it was 6 years later, you know, I probably might have had some cusses in it, because it ain't that I didn't cuss. It's just I was also trying to make sure radio-wise, nobody would have one reason not to play our stuff.